All right, I got 7 o'clock straight up, so we will go ahead and call this meeting of March 9th of the Citrus Heights City Council to order. And we will start off with the flag salute, and if Councilmember Daniels, if you would lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Amy, if you would mind calling the roll, please.
Councilmember Bruins?
Present.
Councilmember Daniels?
Here.
Councilmember Turner is absent and excused. Vice Mayor Miller?
Present.
And Mayor Slowey.
Present.
So this meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed caption and webcast at citrusheights.net. Tonight's meeting replays on Monday, March 13th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14, and a DVD copy is available for checkout from any library branch.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as stands. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Presentations, next item.
So presentation number 4 is City of Citrus Heights 20-year celebration, top 20 presentation.
Welcome, Stephanie.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor Council. Stephanie Cotter, City Manager's Office. So tonight, I'm here to present the monthly top 20 list. We're doing it as part of our 20th anniversary. So each month, we're doing a different list to highlight various aspects of our city. And this month's list, March, is neighborhood projects. These are defined as neighborhood-initiated projects, so projects that the city didn't initiate, but came straight from the community in various forms. The top 20 neighborhood projects are listed above on the slide. You can see there's a mix of different kinds of projects, everything from business groups and neighborhood associations collaborating for the Antelope Crossing Spooktacular, park improvements, which are part of the neighborhood improvement projects, where the city collaborates with the neighborhood groups to improve certain areas of the city, National Night Out, the Christmas lights at Orel Creek Court, painting of the sound wall at Fair Oaks, several of the neighborhood associations projects, and even the Sylvan Oaks Library Science Club program. We also have the volunteer creek cleanups, which a lot of our faith-based organizations and communities within the city help with. So here are some photos of the different projects: the Sylvan Ranch Community Garden, Antelope Crossing Spooktacular, Sayonara Center Volunteers, Community Campout. Some of the park improvements, the sound wall I mentioned, painting the sound wall, the Auburn Boulevard roadside flowers. We actually have a resident who maintains the flowers there and the median along Auburn Boulevard across from Crosswoods. The adult fitness area, San Juan Park, and the Crosswoods Park tennis court resurfacing, which was a really big project that several neighborhoods collaborated to complete. And I would like to invite up Dr. Jana Karpinski-Costa, the president of SOAR Neighborhood Area 10, and she's going to go over 3 of the SOAR projects that were nominated for the top 20 list.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. The first project that we're featuring is SOAR to Healthy Heights, which is our annual senior health fair. This is our Sentinel project. One of the pictures at the bottom shows how we won an award in 2009 for 2008 event, and we were Best Neighborhood of the Year nationally for this project. But it couldn't happen without the sponsors and the partners that we developed over the years. This will be our 10th year this year, and the city has always been a sponsor, as well as Republic Services, SMUD, the Sunrise Park and Rec, and the neighborhood Area 1 and Area 5 have contributed financially to the success of this project. Then we have, the Lions Club provides an optometrist, and we do eye exams. We have, county now supplies nurses, we do diabetes testing. It's all free, everything, and this year, in case my 2 minutes go up, is May 18, Thursday. Mayor Slowey is our honorary chair this year. And we're hoping to we have a theme every year. Now that we're indoors, we can do a panel, we can have a theme. This year's theme is stroke prevention and rehab, with hopefully incorporating Sutter Health from Roseville to do the stroke stuff. And we always have some great, what do you call them? Workshops, and we have the police department gives a workshop, and we have a fall prevention workshop, and we'll probably do something with something else. So we haven't got it all together yet, it's coming. And so some of the pictures that are up there is our award. We do blood pressure checks. And those little kids from Mesa Verde High School with my signs are probably now married with children, because that sign was on my back. And then our next project, because I only got 2 minutes, is at Christmas, we put to bags, this now, we've done it 3 years. The first year was our test year, we only did 12. The second year, we did 25 seniors that we teamed up with Meals on Wheels and the SOAR members. The second year was mostly donations from our SOAR members. Brought food and non-perishable items, and we delivered a bag of food and a bag of non-food, things like socks and gloves and toiletry items, shaving cream for men. And so we even bring pet food, and this was last year. I got to sit on the couch and pet one of the little dogs that was there. And so we this year teamed up with the Lions Club, and we did more because we could bring more with 2 groups putting together. So SOAR did the food and Lions did the non-food, and we went to 24 households. And I have to tell you, it's one of the best projects I've done, because these people are in tears, sobbing and thanking us for remembering them at Christmas, especially with food. So that's that. And then our third project that's recognized is our beautiful signs. Now, a lot of the neighborhoods have street sign toppers, and they're all beautiful. Ours, I'm very proud of, because we just paid, last week, we paid the guy to own the artwork. So now that's our official SOAR logo. We haven't had one in 10 years, or 20 years. We've been a neighborhood as long as the city's been a city. So anyway, those are our 3 projects. We're happy to answer any questions if you have any on our projects. But to remind everybody, May 18, Thursday, May 18.
What are you going to do next?
We have another one coming up. We're partnering with the Lions for school children. It's called Make a Difference campaign. And they will submit projects to make a difference in the world or in their community, and we will judge them. And SOAR, we have a fireworks booth that we do in the summer that we don't use city. These projects were done with our NIP funds, but then when we do our fireworks, that's separate money, so we kind of keep that for non-city things. And so this one, so anyway, kids will have projects, and then we hope to fund the project. We will also give cash prizes, and we've rented this the building to have the event. So you'll all know about it when it happens, but since we're partnering with the Lions, you have to have another person she's had some problems. So she's got 5 kids, sickness, kids are sick all this time. So anyway, that's a good project, because the kids will come up with, kids amazing what they come up with for making a difference in the world. And so we hope to fund it. We hope to fund them.
Look forward to that.
Thank you, Jana.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Back to you, Stephanie.
We have one more. Rick Doyle's going to come up and briefly talk about the Neighborhood Watch and their participation in National Night Out.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good evening, Council. In today's reality, we've learned how to make a living, but not a life, added years to our lives, but not life to our years. We've been all the way to the moon and back, but we have trouble crossing the street to meet a new neighbor. That's today's reality. And since 9/11 of 01, we've evolved into see something, say something. That's today's reality as well. 8 years ago, I had the privilege of joining with the Citrus Heights Police Department as a volunteer. And at that time, the neighborhood watches amounted to about a half a dozen of them over the entire city of Citrus Heights. Today, there are 60-some plus and growing. And the reason they are is because they are a perfect example of a project that works well. They're designed to meet quarterly. We don't meet monthly as the neighborhood associations do. I belong also to a neighborhood association, as does Jana, and their concern is a lot more than just crime, where Neighborhood Watches concentrates solely on crime. They meet monthly, we meet quarterly. The particular neighborhood association I belong with has 2,200 households. The Neighborhood Watch has 30. And that's designed on purpose because it's an effective program. CHPD model is small and designed to be that way because it's friendly, and it's not only effective, but it's fun as well. It allows neighbors to actually get to know one another, something that we've lost track of nowadays. Now we're not watching just our neighbors, but we're watching our friends' backs, and that's the whole design and purpose of it. The POP team that comes to the neighborhood association meetings every time doesn't have the luxury of coming to the neighborhood watch meetings because there's so many of them. But they've designed us and thought all of us, and we've passed this on to our neighbors, is if you see something, say something. Let them do their job. And so they encourage all of us, if you see something that doesn't look right to you in your own neighborhood, call it in. Nobody knows the neighborhood better than the people that live there. I know what kind of cars my neighbors drive. I know what looks right to me and what doesn't look right. And so if I see something that doesn't look right, it gets called in, and then it goes to our block captain as soon as the police report's been made. And they disseminate that same information to those 30 other households so that we can all be eyes and ears for our own police department. I don't know how many times we've called in. We've just been formed just a little less than 3 years ago. But I do know that CHPD responds to every call that comes in. Usually it means nothing, but it's their job, and that's what they look at, and that's the way they consider it. Once a year in August, the National Night Out is held by the city, and this city gets behind it. Jeannie Bruins, Jeff Sloey, Steve Miller, Britt Daniels, Mel Turner, all of them have been to all of the Neighborhood Watch meetings every year in August, as does the city police command staff, the police chief. I mean, this city really gets behind this thing, and that encourages all of us, and thankfully so, to be excited about what's going on in the city of Citrus Heights. I believe one of the reasons, a very good reason for the cities being able to brag that they've reduced crime every year consistently 10 years in a row is because we get to be the Neighborhood Watch eyes and ears for our good police department. Thank you. That's all I have, unless you have other questions.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you. So we thank everybody who submitted a nomination for a neighborhood project, and stay tuned because the next top 20 list is top 20 community leaders, and that'll be announced at the April 13th City Council meeting, and more information can be found on the city's homepage at citrusheights.net.
Thank you. Next item, Amy.
Next item is comments by council members and regional board updates.
Start off on my right with Jeannie.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
Well, yesterday we had our regional SAN meeting, and the big topic had to do with a presentation on the proposed rate increases over the next 5 years. We did have some public comment on this, and this is not just residential rates, but also business rates and industrial rates. And so it's nothing new. I mean, this is all to fund the big Echo Water project. And so they're very modest, thankfully, because we took the heavy hits up front so that we would have the money in hand to start this project. So July 1st, and this is the sanitation, regional SAN side, not the SAC sewer side. There's, as you probably are aware, we have 2 sewer districts that serve us. I kind of like to call them the big pipes and the little pipes. So as of July 1st, our rates are going to, the proposal is that our rates will go up $1 a month. So it will go from $35 a month to $36 a month. And then we'll have another rate increase each year until 2020. And then from 2020 to 2021, it'll be a 50-cent raise. And then with that, we anticipate if things go the way we expect them to go, that we'll be able to hold the line on rate increases for a number of years. And so, since I'm talking about regional SAN, got an email today from them, and I just want to share it with you, that as a treatment plant, they've always hosted wastewater treatment plant tours. And now that the weather's getting better again, because part of the tour is outside, they are kicking these into high gear again. So we are all invited to go out to Elk Grove. It's actually kind of a fascinating tour, and meet with the people who keep our region safe by providing the vital service of, once we flush our toilets, we don't have to worry about it again. There are reservations required because this is a popular event. So if you'd like to take a tour of the wastewater treatment plant, you can do that by contacting me or going online, which is www.regionalsand.com/tour treatment plant. And then, day before yesterday, I went over to San Juan High School, and they had a couple of students whose names were Bradley and Doris, a senior and a junior, who ran a very successful blood drive. And I just want to comment and compliment them on that. They had so many students participate, as well as teachers' aides and people from the community, that Blood Source ran out of supplies. And so I was very happy to go over there and encourage them. I'm a big blood donor myself. I am a member of the 10-gallon club, and it takes many years to get to that point. But I really, I'm so pleased to see the young people just pick up the challenge and run with it. So hats off to them. And then Steve and I were at the Sunrise Marketplace board meeting today. It's one of our assignments. And they're pretty short meeting, not a whole lot that was terribly exciting. Other than we did get a report from Rhonda Sherman, our Community and Economic Development Director, who talked about our branding project, and it's now in the creative, what's the word I'm looking for? Time, yeah, basically the creative session is going on. So we participated in that meeting, and things are going well there. So that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jeannie. Janice.
I have had the need to go and visit the police department a couple of times over the last few weeks, and I just wanted to let the chief know that there's a problem. I've gone there and I've had to deal with the volunteers, and those ladies that I've had to deal with are so nice and funny and fun to be around that I'm having to come up with another reason to go back. So please know that they're doing a great job, and I'm looking around just watching, and everything's just fine-tuned and just going, and just so great job over there, Chief. That's it.
Vice Mayor Miller.
Well, thank you. A week ago, Monday, attended Regional Transit, and it was a morning session. Started at 9:30 and went till about noon or so. And Henry Lee, the general manager, talked about the strategic vision that he has and the employees have for Regional Transit, and talked about, from July 2015 till present, how we've made improvements in service safety, cleanliness, and convenience. And I know that for a fact, having taken light rail to some of the Kings games, and it's just an amazing transformation. I mean, you step on those trains, they actually smell good, and that wasn't the case before. And they've been working on stronger partnerships regionally and trying to create a positive reputation and create trust and a better image. And I've actually also seen a positive financial trend lately. Now, some of the concerns are that despite these successes, there's significant challenges ahead, especially with the new administration in D.C. and not knowing what type of funding, if any, will come from the Federal Transportation Agency. There's some concern, but so far, I'm seeing a great foundation for future improvement at Regional Transit, and they're looking at becoming fiscally sustainable and not having to borrow from reserves to balance the budget. And they had talked about doing that this year, and actually were able to avoid doing that. And that's one of the first positive trends I've seen. So some good things are happening. They also talked about what we'll look like in 30 years as we increase service and, eventually, hopefully one day, have a line to the airport and perhaps one out here to Citrus Heights as well on light rail. So also, well, Jeannie mentioned the Sunrise Marketplace, and was it a week ago Wednesday we attended Mesa Verde, Mayor? I had the pleasure of going to breakfast with Mayor Slowey and presenting awards to 13 of Mesa Verde's students that had volunteered either at our community camp out or our parade or both. And so that was nice, and we gave them a 20-year city pin as well. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Steve. Okay. Last Friday, the city hosted the League of California Cities Sac Valley Division here. Many of us attended. Very interesting because we had the OES director for whatever county that is out of up there, the police/fire chief from Oroville, and some other folks, and they were talking about the evacuation, what went right, what went wrong. And the two things that, granted I wasn't up there, it looked, pretty good on TV from what we saw, but, the two of the things that I took away from it, one, you don't really think about if you're evacuated, you need gas in your car. I'm one who tends to run his needle down further than I probably should. So now I'm under a new mission to, when I get to half a tank, fill it up. They had 2 gas stations in Oroville, and after they called the evacuation, they thought, we better get a hold of those owners to see if they'll stay open. Well, one family had already evacuated, so they only were able to have 1 gas station open in town, and that's probably what you saw on TV in terms of the hour and a half wait, and that's roughly what it was. The other thing was, if you watched the news, they eventually did close Highway 70 northbound and had all the traffic in all 4 lanes going southbound, but the police chief said it took 5 hours to get that done because it was a state highway. So when you think about, an emergency management plan, they just, while that had been in there, they never thought about who do you contact to get permission to do that. And it took them about 5 hours to get the right people to say, okay, because you can't just close down a state highway from a local jurisdiction. You have to go through the right people. I guess you could and suffer the consequences later, but I just found that interesting that, it took that long. Last weekend, myself and a couple of the other council members were at the mall and kicked off Hidden Treasures, which is a collection of local art put on by the History and Arts Commission. It's in the mall over by Sears and the movie theater. It's also open this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday, noon to 5. Saturday, it's featuring art by veterans, and Sunday, it's featuring art by local Mesa Verde students. So if you're interested, feel to go by there. Most of us here also attended the Reach Potluck earlier in the week, and that was another success. This morning, I went downtown and attended the quarterly GSEC meeting, which is the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. I do have some links to and some information to send out to the council. I haven't had time to get it to you, but I'll get it to you tomorrow over the weekend. Just about a couple of videos that this group has put together. They're all about promoting the region. And since we are a member and a paying member, I just kind of want to let you folks see what some of the results is. The one thing I like about this board, not the fact that there's 31 board members, that's probably, in my personal opinion, about 25 too many, but 25 of the board members are private companies in town, and they've each committed $100,000 a year for 5 years. So each one of them is basically paying to be there. While we do too, I think our fee is in the $30,000 range. To me, when I see private companies, people that want to promote this region, willing to commit $500,000 a year, over 5 years, and we've got 25 of the biggest companies in town on this board, I think they're going to do some good stuff. And then lastly, I don't believe it's sold out yet, but on the 18th, which is a week from Saturday, the Citrus Heights Marching Band is holding their annual spaghetti feed / fundraiser at the community center. Great price, great time, and it's a good organization to support. So if you want tickets, I'm sure you can look up Citrus Heights Marching Band, and they're almost sold out, but you can still get some tickets. So again, they're a good group, so we want to promote them and they're local. So with that, we'll move on to the next item.
So next item is public comment, and members of the audience may address the council on any item of interest to the public and within the council's purview, or on any agenda item before or during the council's consideration of the item. If you wish to address the council during the meeting, please fill out a speaker identification sheet and give it to myself, the city clerk. When you are called upon to speak, step forward to the podium and state your name for the record. Normally, speakers are limited to 5 minutes each, with 30 minutes being allowed for all comments, and any public comments beyond the initial 30 minutes may be heard at the conclusion of the agenda, and the mayor has the discretion to lengthen or shorten the allotted times. And at this time, I have not received any public comment cards.
Okay, we'll make one final call. No stampede, but if you'd like to speak, you can come up to the microphone and we'll have you fill out a sheet later. If you don't want to speak, that's okay too. All right, public comments closed. Next item.
Next item is consent calendar items 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Any council member wish to pull any items on the consent calendar? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 4-0. Next item, please.
Next item is public hearing, number 10. The subject is the 2016 Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistance Grant funding. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution accepting the 2016 Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistance Grant funds in accordance with state requirements.
Welcome, Chief. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, we have presented to you a staff report and resolution requesting City Council adopt a resolution accepting the 2016 Edward Byrne Memorial JAG Assistance Grant, better known as JAG, in the amount of $27,692. These funds must be expended by September 30th of 2019. There are no matching requirements for this grant, and it is a non-competitive grant program. Under this program, cities and counties receive federal funds to augment public safety expenditures, and the police department has applied for this grant to fund based on our needs to replace all of our mobile data computers, about 50 of them in our police cars in detective units. This will ensure that our officers have high-functioning technology to assist them in responding to calls for service, report writing, and increased officer safety. The police department will purchase the mobile data computers upon your approval in a part of a much larger project. The total project's about $162,000, of which we have other funding from our police department general fund, which has already been approved, and our COPS funding. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'd answer any questions you might have.
Great. So you're looking for approval to accept free money and spend it on equipment?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Any questions or concerns? Oh, it is a public hearing, yeah. Any questions for council, from council? All right. Public hearing, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak, please step up to the podium. Seeing no mad rush, I will close the public hearing and act on the pleasure of the council.
I'll move approval on it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Sandy, you did a great job.
That PowerPoint was just...
Next item, Amy, please.
Next item is regular calendar, item number 11. The subject is appointment to the Construction Board of Appeals, and the recommendation is to that the City Council, by majority vote, appoint an individual to the Construction Board of Appeals to fill an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2018. So currently, the city has 2 seats on this 5-member board that are currently vacant. The city has received 1 application from a John Millay, and he was invited to the City Council meeting tonight. But at this time, we're presenting that application to the council for consideration to appoint to fill the unexpired term.
Great. Is John Millay in the audience? Oh, well, stand up, let us take a peek at you. Not that, that matters. Always like to put a face behind the name. So first of all, thank you for putting in an application, and thank you for volunteering for this particular board. It's not one of our more glamorous boards. I realize it doesn't meet all the time, but we got to have volunteers for it, so thank you very much in advance for putting in the application. All right, so I believe that's,
Do we have a motion to?
Yes, you
appoint-
do.
Well, right, I was going to say, I don't want to say it's our only application, but it is our only application, so.
Gratefully.
We could
Do
just
we-
formalize.
have it.
Do we have a
That
motion
appointment.
to
I
accept?
move
that?
approve, accept the application.
Great. So we have a motion. Did I hear, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second. All right. All those in favor of appointing John Malay?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Good job, John. 4-0. You're in.
Thanks.
All righty. Next item, please.
So the next item is Department Reports, number 12. The subject is the Citrus Heights Police Department Annual Crime Report given by the Police Department.
It's my pleasure to present to you our 2016 annual report. And before I start on the report, I wanted to thank a few people, namely our city manager, who, after working for 27 years in this business and taking on this police department as your new police chief, I know I've said this before, but it warrants repeating because I'm just absolutely amazed at the police department that we have here in our city. And when I think about what has been built by our city manager, former police chief, and what I've now been so fortunate to adopt, it's just mind-boggling. It's a phenomenal police department. I have been privileged to work in 2 different police departments that were accredited by the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, a voluntary process, a very arduous voluntary process. Our police department in Citrus Heights absolutely was built and designed much like an accredited agency. Top-of-the-line, premier, professional organization that provides a public safety service that is absolutely the gold standard. And so I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this position because I've gone to heaven. It's a wonderful position. Also to our city council, of course, without your support, ongoing support, and championing the cause of the police department, you're a big part of our success, and we want to acknowledge that as well. And of course, our other department directors, my colleagues in the other city departments, because the police department doesn't operate in a vacuum. We recognize that we're a piece of a larger machine and that the rest of city government plays a big role in our success. So we want to acknowledge all of the city employees in thanking you for sharing in this success. And lastly, I have to thank our police staff and volunteers because you are phenomenal people. Top-notch, professional, class act folks. Chief Boyd hired well, he hired hard, he promoted well, and he got the right leaders in the right position, and I'm proud of all of you. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll begin. This is just a small disclaimer here. I won't read it to you, but in 5 minutes presentation like this, there's no way that I can present to you all of the phenomenal work that goes on in the police department, all of the community outreach, all of the programs we're involved with, all of the relationships that we create and maintain. It would just be impossible. We'd be here till midnight if I did. So that's a little disclaimer that this is just going to be extremely high level and just touch the very high level basics. This slide is the most busiest of the presentation. So I'll forewarn you, I'll spend a little bit of time on this one, but the rest of the slides are a little bit easier to read. This is a 2015-2016 comparison year after year, and if you look at the top, or actually we'll start in the middle. If you look in the middle columns there, person crimes, and then underneath that, property crimes, those are what's called the UCR, Uniform Crime Reporting Part 1 crimes. Those are the crimes that every agency in the United States reports to the Department of Justice, and those are we call them the Big 8. The person crimes are homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, and the property crimes are burglary, larceny or theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. If you go to the top left, you'll see persons crimes. Comparing 2015 to 2016, we're up by 3%, and persons crimes represent about 13% of our total crime for the city. If you look at the top right of that screen, you'll see property crime is up by 4%, and property crimes represent 87% of our total crime in the city. Of the persons crime, the largest segment there, or increase, would have been aggravated assault. And of property crimes, the largest increase is motor vehicle theft and burglary. Now, this is a year-to-year comparison, which is not the best snapshot. And I'm going to explain that in the next screen, because we're going to expand the window. To compare year after year, sometimes there's anomalies, sometimes there's things that happen. And a good example is right there at the bottom. If you look at arson, in 2015 we had 6, in 2016 we had 16. Well, that represents a 167% increase. That sounds large, but it's really not that many if you think about the totality of it. So year-to-year comparisons are not the best comparison. Over the past 5 years, from 2012 to 2016, which offers us a better picture, overall crime is actually reduced by 3%. And that brings me to this slide. So this is our 5-year view. If you look at the purple line, that's 2016, and 2012 is orange. So that gives you a snapshot of the different Part 1 crimes. And you can see that over a 5-year snapshot, we're actually pretty stable. It's maintaining consistency over the past 5 years, and that is a better thing for us to look at. Now, something on this slide that's important for me to point out, and that is the category of rape. If you look at 2014 through 2016, those numbers appear to jump from 2012, 13, and then 19, 38, 36, and 38 respectively. The reason for that jump is that in 2014, the U.S. Department of Justice broadened the definition of rape, which caused the numbering to seem inflated because of the new definition. That is nationwide, and it's not specific to Citrus Heights. It's every community struggled with that, and that's why that number is that way. Broadening this up even better is a 10-year picture. So this gives you a much broader snapshot of crime in Citrus Heights, and ironically, we're a little over 10 years old, so this snapshot is our entire history. But what's remarkable about this slide, if you look at 2006, 3,958 Part 1 crimes, and then we've come all the way down to 3,088 Part 1 crimes in 2016. It's a remarkable drop, and that is due to the hard work of the men and women at the police department, but it's also due to the hard work of our community, because our community here has a high level of trust in their police department. And what that tells me is that they call us when things are happening. They let us know, and they partner with us in fighting crime. Not every community is like that. There's a special formula going on here that took a lot of work, a lot of hard work and dedication for people to build. And that trust is not something we take for granted, because that, frankly, is how we help fight crime. From 2006 to 2016, Part 1 crimes reduced by 22%, person crimes reduced by 22.7%, and property crimes reduced by 16.98%. Now, something happened in 2011, and this is what I want to talk about in relative to crime rates, is that in California, we've had a few challenges over the last 5 years. The first one started in 2011 with prison realignment, and in a nutshell, the Supreme Court told the state of California we had to reduce our prison population, which caused the state to come up with a plan. The plan required reducing the prison population by pushing prisoners to the county jail level. And some of those ended up in our communities under what's called a post-release community supervision model. So that changed the criminal justice system, actually historically in California. We'd never experienced anything like that. Then in 2014, voters passed Proposition 47, which also significantly changed the way our rules of engagement with the criminal justice system. It reduced a lot of felony crimes down to misdemeanors, specifically possession of drugs, which changed a lot of our data as far as arrests go. We ended up arresting a lot more misdemeanors versus felonies, which had been felonies prior to Prop 47. Our crime reduction strategies moving forward is to continue our strong community-oriented policing programs, which you all know too well. We pride ourselves on those programs, and that's our partnership with our neighborhoods. Our collaborative community policing partnerships, our neighborhood associations, and our relationships we have there. Our emphasis on focusing on narcotic, gang, and the post-release community supervision offenders. Timely and high-quality predictive crime analysts. Responsive calls for service. Proactive crime fighting. And, of course, school and youth-based programs. Moving forward, we really believe that our youth are our future, and a sustainable community will require the police department to take a very proactive approach at making sure that we create positive role models for our future business owners, future council members, and future police officers. To talk about traffic for a bit here, you'll see that in the right side of the screen, again, 2016 is purple, 2012 is orange. If you look at the very bottom column, the total collisions, we've increased from 2015 to 2016. Last year, we had 859 traffic collisions. We had 5 fatalities last year, and we had 6 in 2015. So what we're doing in the police department is launching on to an education campaign for traffic safety to make sure that we educate motorists and pedestrians on the basics and making sure that we keep them safe on our roadways. The good news is that our DUI collisions are down by 16%. And as you know, one of our strategic goals for the city is to focus on DUI enforcement, DUI saturations, and DUI checkpoints once a month. That's clearly been successful by that reduction in DUI collisions. We continue to do those based on our OTS, Office of Traffic Safety grant funding. I will admit, though, we are concerned about the future with the passage of Proposition 64, with the potential of increased driving under the influence of marijuana drivers. That is a concern of ours. We're paying close attention to that and are going to mitigate that as best we can. So as a result of our DUI enforcement, DUI-related collisions reduced by 16%. Our collision reduction strategies include public education for motorists and pedestrians, DUI enforcement and regular DUI checkpoints, effective use of our Office of Traffic Safety grants, participating in distracted driving campaigns, targeted enforcement in identified focused areas. From 2006 to 2016, traffic collisions in the Citrus Heights Citrus Heights reduced by a remarkable 31.8%. That is a huge reduction in traffic collisions, and that just demonstrates how important focusing on traffic safety and traffic enforcement is. We've actually saved lives in that 10-year period by reducing our traffic collisions. Some of our department statistics, you'll see year to year, 15 to 16, our calls for service are up slightly by a couple thousand. Our 911 calls are up by a couple of thousand calls. Our non-emergency calls are up. Our officer-initiated activity is up remarkably from 16,400 to 21,000. That's any activity that police officers take to proactively go out and deter or fight crime, a car stop, a pedestrian stop, enforcing traffic laws or other laws that we have. Our felony arrests, of course, are down, but that's as a result of our Prop 47, I believe, as well as our misdemeanors are up slightly. That's that flip-flop of the drugs from felonies to misdemeanors. We put in here cases investigated. You'll see how many cases we took, almost doubled, nearly doubled. That is a huge jump in what we're doing. And to me, that demonstrates that we actually have a community that trusts us. They call us when crime occurs, and we're doing everything we can to investigate their crime. So there's a lot of jurisdictions who maybe won't take certain cases. In Citrus Heights, we take as many as we can. That demonstrates a high level of customer service to me. And then lastly, I want to point out our volunteer hours. You'll see a 14,819 hours of volunteerism for the police department. That is remarkable. The U.S. Department of Bureau and Labor Statistics gives a value of volunteer hours at $26.87 per hour. I'm not sure where they come up with that number, but that's what they do. They change it every year. So for 2016, our volunteer hours equate to $398,186. I tell them they can work all the overtime they want. They can work double shifts, but remarkable people. You mentioned, Councilmember Daniels, the volunteers at the front counter. They do absolutely amazing work, and these people are dedicated people who really are part of the fabric of the police department. They're part of our family. We also enjoy dedicated interns who benefit from learning about policing. We have quite a few interns who come in and they learn about the police department, and that offers them college credits for them to go on and hopefully become police officers in the future. So our objectives, I mentioned for this year, I already mentioned the crime and collision reduction strategies, but overall we're also going to focus our efforts on blighted properties, homelessness, and camps. Domestic Violence Intervention Program, which is an award-winning program initiated here in Citrus Heights, one that's been very well received countywide and a model that others follow. We're going to continue to utilize our catch model and data-driven approaches to crime and traffic safety. Just to touch on that real briefly, we had our monthly catch meeting this morning. We had another police chief from the region come and visit us because they're interested in modeling our catch program. So that's pretty impressive that our reputation's out there and they're actually paying attention to what we do. And of course, I mentioned our youth programs. So those are things that we're going to be continuing to focus on in 2017. So speaking about youth, I wanted to include a slide here about our schools. You'll see that our calls for service at our schools are also up. The percentage change 15 to 16 there. Officer initiated activity is up by 15%. Traffic citations in or around the schools are up 45%. And that's probably largely driven by dropping off kids to and from school. That traffic tends to be kind of a jam up around the schools at the beginning time and pickup times. And then, of course, our arrests are up just slightly by 4. But the positive side of this slide here is the bottom right, and this is really something I'm proud of, is the diversion program. And if you look at total diversion, we went from 87 in 2015 to 142. And diversion is a program that will really help us take our future into a bright place, because what we're doing is keeping kids who maybe commit low-level crimes, something that's not of serious nature, and we're keeping them out of the criminal justice system. We're providing them positive role models. They enter into a contract with the police department. They have to perform some level of community service. They usually have to write an essay. The parents are involved with this relationship with the police department, and it really can save kids' lives and put them on the right track. So I'm proud of that number, because to go from 87 to 142 is pretty remarkable. And then lastly on this slide, of course, our many youth programs. I told you I couldn't talk about all of our programs tonight because we'd be here until midnight, but our youth programs really are one of our many crown jewels, as you know. Our Police Activities League, our Explorer program, the Juvenile Diversion, Youth Leadership, our Youth Academy, our school resource officers do such a wonderful job at reaching out to our kids and developing those positive relationships. And then, of course, our juvenile detective, Detective Jones, they just do a phenomenal job at creating these positive relationships. And lastly, moving forward, I'm meeting with our management staff next week for a team-building workshop to create our strategic plan in the police department moving forward. And part of this process was for me to garner their information about what do they see in the police department, what's going well, what's their vision for the future. And part of that process was for them to participate in a survey. Now, the survey was anonymous. I don't know who wrote what. It was a very robust survey with several questions. And they paid several accolades to our city manager, very proud of their police department. They're very proud of their police chief. I hope I can live up to your standard. Hopefully we'll see moving forward. But it spoke very highly of the city and of the police department, and they also spoke very highly of the city council. And I wanted to share one snippet out of there. Now, again, this is anonymous, so I don't know who said it. But I just wanted to share this with you because this was out of an anonymous survey. CHPD has the best city council around. No joke. I absolutely love working for these folks. They are hands down so supportive of CHPD, worked their tails off to get us, the PD, and never take us for granted. They are stand-up folks with hearts of gold. No, I'm not related to any of them. Honestly, though, they are a major reason why I have not opted for employment elsewhere. And I can share with you that sentiment is pretty unanimous amongst the police department. They truly appreciate your support, and they know how much you work for them. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate the update. And I would agree that, necessarily analyzing one year to the next is, criminals don't always look at a calendar and say, oh, I got to hold off because it's going to fall into this category. But you guys and gals do a phenomenal job. So I have two questions, but let me defer to my other council members first, if anybody has any comments or questions. Go ahead.
Well, I think along with what you said, when the call volume's up and everybody calls and you show up to every call, the numbers are going to go up, and so it does inflate our stats. But you're right, year to year, you really look at the trends over a long period of time, and it's been phenomenal. One of the questions I had when you mentioned fatal collisions, are those in the vehicle fatalities, or do those include pedestrians?
It would be both, pedestrian fatalities as well as in the vehicle.
Because I was concerned at the number of pedestrian fatalities we were having, and it seemed to be the fault of the pedestrians, from what I understand.
Well, some of them were still under investigation, but the most recent ones were involving pedestrians. Those are in 2017, though.
Oh, okay.
The last one we had was in February.
I was just curious, thanks. And again, thanks, Chief. Thanks to our command staff, our officers, and our volunteers. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Daniels, comments or questions?
Yeah, it's very good to see that what you've presented. I think we're in for even more challenges as people at the state level just want to find ways more and more to let criminals out. We're just going to have a greater challenge. And so, but one of the things that jumped out at me on that was the vehicle theft and the big spike in vehicle theft. Are we doing anything specific to address that? Any programs, partnering with anybody to work on that? Because that's a crime that actually, it really bothers me because I think it disproportionately hurts people of middle and lower income because people don't really steal Lexus and Mercedes. They steal that 1988 Toyota Corolla. And that's going to be the person who probably doesn't have insurance either. And so what are we doing there? And do you know, has 2017 seen a turn from 2016, if you know?
So far, we have not seen a turn. The trend, our latest information is the trend continues, and it's a trend that's not unique to Citrus Heights. Auto theft is up over the entire state of California, and anecdotally, a lot of that happened after prison realignment and Prop 47. That crime in particular actually spiked after prison realignment in 2011. So up and down the state, agencies have struggled with this. We partner with what's called SACCATS. It's a task force that's headed by the California Highway Patrol. It's in Sacramento County, and its exclusive mission is to combat auto theft. So we have a footprint there. We partner with them, and we work closely with them, and that's something we're working with them more. We do have some unique programs, and partnering with them as well is to combat this and catch people in the act.
And I agree, you can't do the 1 year over the 1 year. It's a little disappointing that there's even a slight little spike, but that could just mean that we just did better last year, And so hopefully we'll see that turn. But just kudos, obviously, to the officers, the staff. It's the toughest job in the world, and it's the greatest job in the world. And so they're doing a great job. The public recognizes that we have a great police department, and thank you for what you've done to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Jeannie, any questions or comments?
Just a couple on different subjects. One is, you mentioned that the definition of rape has changed, which caused the spike from 1 year to the next. What was that change? That was my one question. And then I have another one that's completely unrelated.
Yeah, the rape definition, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce Cass. Cassandra here put together this annual report, so everything that's right in it was her doing. Everything that you didn't like is, I'll take responsibility for. But the definition before 2014 included specifically male and female, and they broadened that now to be not just male and female, so the definition can be either sex, and so that's how the definition got broadened.
And my other question had to do, I understand that Assemblyman Cooper has legislation that he's introduced that would mitigate some of the negative effects of Prop 47. Have you learned anything about that?
Yes, I do know about that, and I can't be politic in uniform, but I will tell you, I think he's on the right track.
Okay.
His bill is to try to address the piece of Prop 47 that's exclusive to theft. And what's happening is shoplifters are going in and they're stealing things that are less than $950.
Right.
And if it's less than $950, it's a misdemeanor.
Right.
So his bill is being introduced is to have an aggregate over a rolling 12-year period that if they...
12-year?
I'm sorry, 12-month period, over a 1-year period, that if the aggregate is more than $950, then it could become a felony.
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I understood it to be. Thank you.
Okay, well, you may not be able to politic. If that bill gains traction, let us know so we can determine whether we would like to support it with our other legislators. So,
Thank you, sir.
you had mentioned Prop 64, so a question along those lines, obviously having to do with marijuana. Is there technology out there today that will tell you whether somebody is, illegally driving while under the influence of drugs? And if so, I'm assuming that's equipment we don't have today. So should we, in the back of our minds, be thinking that's probably equipment that we're going to want to equip the police department with down the road?
Yes, and I'll answer the last part of your question first. Yes, that should be in the back of our minds because it is coming. Assemblyman Lackey introduced a bill last year that did not pass that would introduce a technology that does an oral swab on a car stop. So if you have a suspected DUI driver, you suspect they're under the influence of drugs, this machine does a swab, you stick it in the machine, and in I think it was 60 seconds, it would tell you if they have drugs in their system. So the technology's there, it's not perfected yet, and it really hasn't been tested in the court system. But the downside is there's no per se when it comes to marijuana. Like for alcohol, we have a per se limit, anything over .08. Everybody knows that that's legally, you can't drive a car. That doesn't exist with marijuana, and the problem is alcohol and marijuana are solubly different. Marijuana can stick in one system for 30 days, whereas alcohol will dissipate in a period of 8 hours or so, 10 hours. So if someone smoked marijuana 20 days ago, and then we stop them today, we need to be able to determine that per se limit.
So there's no bag of Doritos test we can put in front of them? No.
Not yet.
All right, and then you mentioned the catch meeting today, and I would just say to my fellow council members, I know, Jeannie, you've been able to attend one or two in the past. I don't know about you gentlemen, but if you get the opportunity, it's a great meeting to go to. I mean, let's be honest, not everybody in this city is a model citizen. There's some knuckleheads out there. And it's always amazing to me when I go to a catch meeting and, the officers are, of the different groups are covering off, because, we have different shifts, and how in-depth they get on some of our knucklehead citizens, and, what they're doing to combat legally to catch these people in crimes. Just because you suspect them doesn't mean you have enough evidence to move forward. So I just think, I've been to several of them, and they're great. So if you would, if you don't mind, in the future when you have them, just let us know if you have room for us, that we might be able to attend. But they're great meetings, and again, to me, it just showcases not only the great men and women we have in the police department, but the tools that are out there for them to use, which are, amazing. And I'm not talking about, hacking somebody's TV. They do the legal way to do it, and it's amazing. So thank you for your presentation. Again, thanks for everything the police department does. It's a tough job. Brett said, it's the greatest job. I couldn't do it, but, I'm glad that you all do it, and you guys men and women do a great job. And I think the citizens are 100% behind you. So even when there's a little blip on the radar that, doesn't always look good, everybody's out there doing their best, and I'm amazed at the aptitude and the attitude that our officers have. Because when I go out on ride-alongs and meet some of our less than stellar citizens, I just want to slap them upside the head. Mm-hmm. And our officers treat them professionally, and, I couldn't do that. I'd have to speak my mind, so I find myself biting my tongue half the time I'm out on a ride-along. So, more power to the folks that do it, and they do a great job. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mayor, if I might, before we
Hey,
close this.
you have a new job now.
So,
Okay, but you can.
yeah, I figured I mean, 9 of the 12 months.
Okay, fair enough.
But in addition to also thanking the men and women of the department, this is really the chief's, first report and one of his first actions, and I just wanted to take a minute to thank him. We've hired the right guy. He's the perfect fit. He's jumped right in. Just tremendous support, positive feedback that I've received from the community and the officers and the staff and really everybody. And a great command of the budget, and he's just jumped right in and has that all on track and under control. And I just couldn't be more pleased and want to thank him and thank you for jumping into this role. We're so glad to have you. It's a nice job.
Thank you, former chief. All right, next item, please.
Next item, city manager items, and there are none. So next item is items requested by council members or any future agenda items.
The only thing I'd ask, and very briefly, but at least once a month between now and our block party in June, if we could just get an update, because it's on TV publicly and that, what we're kind of planning for that June 3rd, if I'm correct, block party.
Could I make a follow-up on that?
Yeah. So again, I don't want a PowerPoint, a lengthy thing, just, kind of what, I want to build it up so that, if anybody, like me, if I don't have about a 30-day notice, it's probably not on my calendar. So I think the more we talk about it, that'll give us 3 or 4 opportunities between now and June, so. Jean.
And speaking of that, I forgot to mention this earlier. This was mentioned at Sunrise Marketplace meeting today. We do have a block party volunteer application. There are lots of opportunities for the community to volunteer for part of this day and to participate, such things as recruit and manage performances for the stage, band assistance, VIP parking attendance, vendor setup, tear down, kids zone, maintenance, and any other miscellaneous. And they're in timeframes, so you're not going to be working all day and not enjoying the event. So this is on our city's website, I believe. And so if you, I'm, frequently get asked by people, what can I do to help volunteer? Here's a great event that we can use lots and lots of volunteers to help make it a very special day. Thank you.
Anything from this side? Great. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and close the meeting. Thank you all.